next on the bench we've got a beautiful Philco Sterophonic, what I call a suitcase record player. Really nice little unit, got 2 speakers on each side. If you notice, you grab the speakers here and they kind of swing out, and then you got the same thing on the other side here. They kind of pop out and swing, and then as you can see from the front side here, it opens up to a nice little unit that speakers point forward, or you can just open the top here like this on it and close these back in, and they snap back in, and you can listen to it that way. It's also got speakers on the front here. So at any rate, this belongs to a friend of mine's mother, and interested in getting it restored. It's a really nice unit in really nice shape, but the traditional things I see with these are exactly what I'm seeing with this one. Let me give you a demo of what's wrong with it, and the things I'm trying to figure out here as I work up a quote for them on what it will cost to get this fixed. So we've got it plugged in, and first thing I'm going to do is lift this tone arm up and out of the way like this, as you can see here, and we're going to reach down and turn this unit on. And if you'll notice, you hear the spinning noise, but the platter's not spinning. And then in kicks the loud hum. So you got a couple problems here. Let me turn the volume down on this thing. And if you notice, the volume doesn't affect the level of the hum. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. And if you'll notice, the platter, hear it just grinding, and the platter's not spinning. So that's part of the problem. So you know of 2 problems at this point. Platter not spinning, got a really loud hum coming out of, let's see if I can get this open. Down inside here is a little tube amplifier, and this the hum is coming from this electrolytic capacitor right here is shot. Not much else to it. They're an electrochemical device, and they dry out over time. And when they dry out, they let AC, that noise you were hearing was a 60 hertz tone, and they let AC get onto the signal path of the audio, and you hear the AC signal louder than you hear the audio itself. The second problem I found here, I'll show you. I've already removed the E clip right here, but that's as simple as using a screwdriver on a little clip here. And let me see if I can get this platter to lift up. Let me sit this down 1 second. Okay, got my fingers under it, but this thing will lift it'll kind of work its way all the way off at that point. We'll set the platter over here itself. And what happens is this platter on the inside here is where there's a rubber idler wheel that pushes against this inside here and pushes hard, and because it's a little round rubber wheel, it spins, and then it causes this platter to spin. Well, this is that rubber idler I'm talking about. And by the way, this unit here, this little square unit, even though it's labeled stereophonic, a bunch of these were made by the Voice of Music, and this is a Voice of Music unit. I've just worked on plenty of these over time, and became very accustomed to them. So, and if you'll notice on this thing here, really small writing here, but the part number VM22915 here, that stands for Voice of Music, and that's an idler wheel. Sadly, they don't sell new idler wheels. These things have not been made in about 3 or 4 decades now. And even if you found a new in the box one from years ago, it's probably as hard and dried out and brittle as this one is. I mean, this thing, you can hear when I'm tapping on it. It's not like rubber. It's like I'm hitting a piece of metal here. It's the same loudness. So this thing's got to be replaced. You just basically got a piece of hard plastic spinning around trying to spin against the outside of the platter, and it's just not spinning it at all. So this thing's got to be rebuilt with some soft rubber, and there's 2 guys on the planet that I know that do that. You basically pull this idler wheel, ship it to them, and anywhere between about $50 and $80, some of them get a little more than that, they will rebuild your idler wheel. They basically strip it all the way down, and then they apply they have some kind of process they use to rebuild the rubber and put a new tire basically on this wheel. if you could think of it that way. And then beyond that, a couple other things down in here. You can see the grease just gooped up on the bearings there. That doesn't help the platter spin at all when it's all, the grease is all gooped up or whatnot. So we'll have to clean and lubricate and kind of rebuild the, they call it the transmission. It's a whole section that kind of comes underneath back here and comes across down to about right in here and goes back across, and it operates the you know, the autoplay part of this, the up and down, the swap with the 45 records, etc. And so if the transmission's not cleaned, these things usually are all gummed up over time. The grease is just turned to gunk. They won't operate properly. And then finally, so that's two problems I've identified. Remember, filter capacitor, this thing needs rebuilding. Probably the audio coupling capacitors in it need to be replaced as well. Idler wheel kind of shot. Transmission needs to be cleaned and not necessarily rebuilt, but just cleaned and serviced and re-lubricated. But then the final third problem that I'm seeing here is we have a needle here that is on the, if you notice, it's on the 78 side. And so the 78 needle looks okay, although it's a little bent to one side. But if we flip it over, there is no 3345 needle. As you can see, it's broken off right here at my thumbnail, and there's really no needle here at this point. So got to order a new needle for it. So three distinct problems: needle, idler wheel, we need to rebuild the capacitors and the amplifier, and then just a general service, oil and lube of the whole unit. And I'll tell you, it's not trivial. The last one I did like this, I had 5 hours in. So it's not something that that happens in 20 or 30 minutes. Okay, we kind of wrote down the parts we need. I'm going to get a new 78 needle because that one's bent, and definitely a new 33 needle. Got the idler wheel wrote down. The capacitors I would need to replace this, I have. Wouldn't have to go buy those, but I have them in my stock. But what I'm going to do now is work up a quote on this thing and send it back to the original owner and see if they're interested in getting it repaired. I think the last one I did like this, that, you know, with the idler wheel, it seems like it was $60 or $70. The needles, Stylus, were, I want to say, up in the $40, $50 range. The capacitor job here and labor and whatnot, seems like it was about $200, maybe $225. And so you got to really look at something like this and think, wow, what do I have in it? 'Cause somebody probably bought this, who knows, $50, $75, but, and they thought, wow, I got a good deal. But then you think about, do I really want to sink $200 or so into it? So the last one I did for somebody, it was sentimental. They had, you know, either they or their parents had it since childhood. I've got to get this platter pushed back down, but they had it since childhood, and it was worth doing. Other people I've had bring me stuff like this, and you know, I give them a quote, and they're like, "Whoa, wasn't expecting that." Well, you know, unfortunately, I can't go buy one of these idler wheels for $10, and unfortunately, you know, that's probably a good 2 hours worth of work rebuilding that amp, and similarly another 2 hours to rebuild or pull out the transmission on this thing and clean it and lubricate it again. It's just not trivial stuff to get to. You got to pull this whole table out. They don't make accessing all that stuff easy on these things, and so just kind of labor intensive. So you got to figure out, is it at the end of the day, is it worth you know, putting into it what it may take to fix it? But I'll wrap this up and call it part 1. If they decide they want to fix it, then I'll make a part 2 and show the restoration. And thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate the feedback, and we'll keep making these videos.